Hello and welcome to another edition of Another Book Review. This week I'll be reviewing Bill Beverly's novel Dodgers. I'll talk real briefly about the author, go into a spoiler-free overview of the plot, talk about what I liked about the book, what I didn't like about the book, who I'd recommend the book to, and finish off with what I'll be reading for next time. Bill Beverly has been a published author for almost 20 years now. He's only written 3 things, 2 things other than this book. One was more of a poetry collection, and one was a nonfiction work based on J. Edgar Hoover in his career. But Dodgers is his latest and only novel. He also teaches at a school in D.C., and this book, Dodgers, actually won quite a few awards. I think it won the LA Times Book Award, I believe, as well as some other awards in the crime genre. What it's about is about a boy named East, who is about 15 when the book starts. He works basically yards at what would be a drug den, basically a crack house in Los Angeles, in an area known as the Boxes. And he is part of this larger criminal organization. And through a series of events, he basically is sent on a mission by the overlord of the crime boss of the organization to carry out an assassination. In that, he also takes on his brother is also with him, whose name is Ty, who's 2 years younger than him, as well as 2 others who are also part of the criminal organization. So the 4 of them are basically going on a road trip from Los Angeles to Wisconsin in order to assassinate someone, and that is approximately half of the book. The other half is really the aftermath of that assassination attempt, or assassination. I liked the premise. I thought it was an interesting premise. It's definitely a fish out of the water story in some ways, but I think that Bill Beverly treats his characters are all competent. For his main character is very competent, and so there's a fish out of water aspect to the story, but it's not so much done for comedy. And because East is such a competent character, and he's given such respect by Bill Beverly, that it is a fish out of water story, but that's not really the cornerstone of the story. The cornerstone is really East and Ty's relationship. They're brothers. They're part of this criminal organization. They're very close in age, but their viewpoints are very different. And so you get kind of that conflict, and that's kind of, I think, the most interesting part of the book is that kind of foundation. And I think he does it really, if you have a brother who's relatively close to you in age, you kind of see that Bill Beverly actually captures kind of the love on one hand, but also the competition and kind of the love-hate relationship. I think he captures that really well. I think he did a good job as far as writing something where I didn't know what was going to happen. Like I said, about halfway through the kind of the quote-unquote plot of the book is resolved to some point. And I didn't know in the second half where he was going with it. And I think that the book moves. It's a relatively short book, and I think it's paced pretty well. I'll kind of get to some of the issues I had with it in a second here. But I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought the unpredictable nature of the book kind of added to its overall quality, so that was cool. I will say some of the cons, the things I didn't like as much. Stylistically, it's written in a fairly sparse, terse way. So there's not a lot of flowery descriptions of things. I think on one hand, I think that keeps the pace of the book up. On the other hand, I found myself, it felt jarring at times as you kind of jump from one plot to, or one kind of scene to another. In some ways, where there were definitely times where I had to try to reread stuff to orient myself as to where exactly we were in the story. It's told literally. It's just a matter of, well, we were just in this place. Are we now in a different place? And so it's kind of told in that manner, which I think adds to the effectiveness of the book. But I think also at times there were things that felt kind of unresolved, little small things. I think too. Like I said, as far as the plot goes, it's not necessarily a plot-heavy book. There are times where characters act in certain ways that I felt a little, given the intelligence of these characters, a little strange. There are small things, but there are also things that I pointed out, well, why would you do this if this is your if this is your mission, why would you act in this way? It seems like you're exposing yourself to risk in a way that doesn't make a lot of sense. So there are a couple things like that. They're relatively minor, but I noticed them while I was reading the book. And then kind of the second half, I definitely enjoyed the first half of the book more than the second half. I think the second half and the ending were a little weak. I felt at times there wasn't enough plot to kind of get us through the second half. I wish there had been a little bit more that happened. But I think overall for the story he was telling, everything made sense. Just the second half dragged a little bit for me. And I think there is a resolution to the book. The resolution of the book didn't ultimately gel as much with me with the overall story. It didn't 100% make sense in my mind of why what happened, but that was my take on it. So who would I recommend this to? If you are someone who wants a different take on a crime story or wants to follow a different set of characters, the characters in the book that the book follows are all African American. So Ty East, his brother, and the two other people on the mission to assassinate this person are all African American. So you kind of get that, like I said, the fish out of the water thing. But I think it's done and handled in a relatively realistic way. There's a couple of plot points, like I said, that I didn't quite 100% believe. But for the most part, if you wanted a different take on a crime story, I think this would be worth checking out. Like I said, it's a pretty short book. It's received really strong recommendations and awards. And I thought for the most part, it did what it needed to do. I don't know how much I'll think about the book or how memorable it was to me, but I definitely enjoyed it while I was reading it. And so that is Dodgers by Bill Beverly. Next time I'm going to be reading Artemis by Andy Weir. Until next time, please feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave a comment section in the comments below if you have read Dodgers, if you liked it, you didn't like it, and also leave a link to my Twitter account if you want to check me out there. Until next time, bye.